the 15th. As was just noted, Councillor Coleman will be joining us shortly. Everybody else is here. Anybody to add anything to the agenda? Councillor Wheat, you said you had something. Go ahead.
Coleman has something under number 10, which is new business.
Okay.
It's concerning the city of Brantford. And if he doesn't get here, I'll speak to it for him.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to add to the agenda? Okay, seeing there was no addendum for this evening, we have that one addition in other business, approval of the agenda. Mayor Bailey, Councillor Bell, any questions? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, anybody have any at this time? Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Pierce. I would like to offer a declaration of pecuniary interest against 7.1.1, which is the Brant Community Health Hub furnishings. As the acting chair of the family health team, who will be one of the beneficiaries of the furnishings, I think it's appropriate for me to step down.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? Okay, none at this time, but if you do so through the evening, please make it known. Adoption of the previous minutes. Can I get somebody to move it? Councillor Miller, Councillor Howes. Any questions regarding the adoption of the previous minutes? Councillor Gatward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noted in the minutes when we discussed the Police Services Board motion, or our motion to suggest we preferred 6 members on the board. There was mention at the meeting that there was no representation from the south and eastern parts of the county. And that's why I was supporting additional member to the board, but that isn't noted in the minutes. And I just would ask that the clerk put some note in the minutes about that, please.
Councillor Gatward, correct me if I'm wrong here, folks, but I thought I do recall you stating that, but I thought the conversation went on afterwards that we can't necessarily dictate number of people from certain locations if nobody applies from that specific location. I thought that was part of the conversation that was had after that. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with the fact we should have something from around the county, but if nobody applies from a certain area of the county, we can't necessarily mandate that somebody from that area is on the board.
And that's correct. I agree with what you're saying. However, that was the only reason I supported it, is because we need people from around the county. And I agree, we can't dictate who applies or who's qualified to sit on the board. So that's why I thought it was worthwhile noting that in our minutes, but perhaps if no one else agrees, then that's fine too, I guess.
Okay, just stand by there, Councillor Gatward. Councillor Wheat?
Yes, I believe I said that night that the mayor is on that board, and the mayor represents everyone. Doesn't matter where you live. The mayor represents everybody. So everyone is represented.
Okay, committee, how do we want to go forward with this? Councillor Laferriere.
Through you, Mr. Chair, does Joan just want it noted that she had those concerns in the minutes? Like,
Yeah.
then it's on the record, but then it doesn't have to change anything.
Okay, is that correct, Councillor Gatward?
Yes, I wanted those concerns noted in the minutes.
Okay, so if we could just make note that we add those concerns, that we need somebody from each of the areas of the county on the Police Services Board. Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
No problem. Any other questions about the minutes, concerns? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes? Anything else from those minutes? Seeing none, we will move on. Consent items 7.1 consent items to be approved. We'll do them one at a time. So 7.1.1, Counselor Bell has declared a conflict of pecuniary interest here. Can I get a mover to get it on the floor first, then we can talk about it? Counselor Howes, Counselor Gatwood. Okay, so there is a recommendation there. Any questions on that recommendation? Counselor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Three to maybe perhaps Brooke, because it's her report. I believe it was either last week or the week before, the government of Canada slapped a massive tariff on home furniture, I guess, from China. And I'm just wondering, do you know if this is going to affect this at all? And that tariff was 200 to 300%. It was ridiculous.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to address Councillor Miller's question, it has not affected the pricing that we're seeing. In fact, the pricing that we're seeing here has come below the money that we had allocated in the Health Hub budget. So fortunately, it's not going to affect us, and the tender price is confirmed, and if awarded, again, will come in under budget.
Okay, and the reason I asked is because it just came out last week, and I see this was awarded, or they were told they had to submit it obviously back in May. So okay, if we can get away with it, go for it. So
Thank you.
Thank you for the response. Any other questions? Counselor Gatward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Brooke. So I would expect this is good quality furniture. It's going to have to last a long time and take a lot of wear and tear. Is it made in Canada, the furniture?
A good portion is. There was a lot of consideration that went in to ensure that it is commercial grade furniture that we're putting throughout the entire Health Hub to last the duration of what we would consider acceptable for furniture of this nature.
Is it made in Canada, or are you?
A component of it is for sure. I can say that with confidence. I can go through the list of all of the different components that are being used and get back to council with that to clarify that. But I do know with confidence a good portion of it is.
Just an email is fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns? Okay, we do have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Brooke. Moving on to 7.1.2, we will wait for Councillor Bell to come back. There he is right there. There is a recommendation. Can I get somebody to move it? Councillor Wheat, Mayor Bailey. Any questions on 7.1.2? RPT-21-149, service agreement with the City of Brantford. Now, Councillor Wheat, if I could just go to you for a second here. Does this have anything to do with Councillor Coleman's addition to other business?
No, it does not.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any questions on this recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Moving on to 7.1.3, RPT-21-158, Community Improvements Application for Grand River Street, for 1 Grand River Street. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor McAlpine, Councillor Bell. Any questions for 7.1.3? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Moving on, 7.1.4, RPT-21-157, Community Improvement Application Plan for 106 Grand River Street North. Can I get a mover? Councillor Howes, Councillor Laferriere. Questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Moving on, 7.1.5, RPT-21-156, Community Improvement Application for 26 Mechanic Street. There is a recommendation. Can I get a mover? Councillor Howes, Councillor Bell. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Moving on to 7.2, consent items to be received. Anybody willing to put them all on the table? Does anybody want any removed? Let me put it that way. Counselor Miller,
7.2.1.
Counselor Gatward. You're on mute, Counselor.
7.2.2.
Thank you. Anybody else want any removed? Can I get a mover for 7.2.3, 0.4, and 0.5? Mayor Bailey, seconder. Counselor Wheat. Any questions on 7.2.3, 4, or 5? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So Counselor Miller, I take it you will move 7.2.1 to get it on the floor? Seconder for that? Counselor McAlpine? Go ahead, Counselor Miller.
First, I'll just say I always appreciate these information reports. I do want to ask, what does the county charge as an interest rate on arrears? Is it the same for everybody, and what and how much is it? And
Heather,
on
go
mute.
ahead. Yeah, Heather, you're on mute.
Oh,
there.
sorry. Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, it's 15% on is the interest rate for tax, for arrears of taxes.
Okay, and then I guess my follow-up question to through you, Mr. Chair, is how do we get to 15%? It seems high to me, but how'd you get that?
I think that it's in the legislation, it's in the, Christine could tell me for sure whether it's a municipal act or it's a government set rate.
Okay, so if I was in arrears at the city of Brantford, it would be 15%, or the city of Woodstock?
I think we can go lower, but most stick to the 15%.
All right. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But like I said, it does seem a little bit high, but okay, thank you.
Okay. So we've got that moved and seconded. All in favor of 7.2.1? Opposed? That is carried. Counselor Gatward, you'll move 7.2.2.
Yes.
Can I get a seconder, please? Counselor Miller? Go ahead, Counselor Gatward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I totally agree with the resolution from the town of Fort Erie about the capital gains on primary residence being removed. The resolution they've spelled out is bang on. And so I'd like to propose a motion. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Miller, that the Corporation of the County of Brant endorse the town of Fort Erie resolution dated June 1st, 2021, that the federal government cease further consideration of capital gains tax exemptions on primary residences.
Okay, that is moved. That is moved and seconded for that. Discussions?
I think, Mr. Chairman, we have to let the government know municipalities need to speak out loud and clear, because our residents, I'm sure most of them would object to this tax grab by the federal government, especially from seniors who've invested their life savings in their home. And then they go to sell it and they're taxed heavily. It's a sure ticket to being ousted from power.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my motion, and I'm hoping that council will support it.
Okay, we do have it seconded. Any other questions to the motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Okay, the motion itself is carried. Now for 7.2.2, as amended by the motion, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to section number 8, staff reports. RPT 21-162 franchise agreement with Six Nations Natural Gas Limited. Can I get somebody to move that recommendation? Councillor Bell, seconded. Mayor Bailey. Anybody with questions on this? Councillor Gatward and then Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Bateman Line is in Ward 5, and it's a very rural area. So I was surprised at this request because there will be a lot more customers down in Onondaga that they could provide gas services to. And many of the people down in Onondaga are anxious to get gas services in their community, as was indicated in 2018 during the election period. So I'm hoping that Onondaga Village will be next to benefit from this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple questions through you, maybe to the author. Will they be paying property taxes on the pipeline? That's the first question.
Who can jump
I
in and
skipped
answer
through-
that?
I skimmed through the agreement and I didn't see anything about that, so I don't, that's what I'm asking.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's something I can investigate further. I assume there's some precedence when it comes to the county's relationship with Enbridge, so I can certainly provide an answer for that later.
Okay, just to be clear, the gas lines, I'm pretty sure that they do pay a small bit of property taxes. We know it's not much, but they definitely do. So that's why I was looking at the ownership of this one, and I'd like an answer on that one, to be honest, before I support it. There was a second question. It's related to natural gas being spread around. There was a bunch of provincial monies awarded, and there was nothing for the county of Brant. So it's to help again spread the use of natural gas. So we were shut out. These 9 houses that you mentioned through you, Mr. Chair, to Adam, is there talk of doing more, or is this just a one-off?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I spoke with the regulatory council for Six Nations Natural Gas Limited this afternoon about this, just to get a better sense of where they're at in the process. It appears that this is one of 2 applications. One is for another segment of territory in Norfolk County. She indicated that if council has or county residents have a desire to further connect to the system, I will most certainly pass those on to her regarding that. And it sounds like it's a further amendment to this application. I assume they'll proceed with this application, and then based on desire of other county residents and obviously their business decisions, there could be an opportunity to expand this further.
Supplemental question then, is there something that we should be doing as a county, or should citizens be getting together in groups, or any suggestions along those lines?
Well, yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I would assume that obviously some sort of defined customer base would help them in a business decision to expand into further parts of the county. I think there's some consideration as they're a smaller company. And also they have a very cooperative relationship with Enbridge. So in areas where Enbridge has indicated they don't see any anticipated growth or expansion into, that's something that they may see in this opportunity. But ultimately, I think, if you provide a defined customer base, then there's a better chance that they would see that as a viable business opportunity.
In a way, I see 9 is actually good to start, just to see how it goes. But I'll support tonight. But hopefully, again, through you, Mr. Chair, Adam, you can let us know before council about the property taxes, because, like
Yeah,
I said,
certainly.
I do know pipelines, they do pay some. It's a small, actually Christine would probably know better than I.
I am most certainly not the person to ask about
I
taxation
know,
of
but
pipelines.
I thought it might be in the report. And I, like I said, I did skim through the agreement and I saw nothing, so.
Yeah.
Okay, look forward to the answer.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Moving on to 8.2, RPT 21-152, the half load restriction update on the intersection modifications. There is a recommendation. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Wheat. Second. Mayor Bailey. Any questions on this recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 8.3, RPT 21-153, the proposal to eliminate alternate parking, final phase. There is a recommendation. Can I get a mover? Councillor Laferriere. Seconder, Councillor Bell. Questions on this report? Councillor Laferriere.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff. Before we vote on this, I'm just wondering if we can get a verbal update on how it's been taken in the areas where it has been. I've seen some complaints, but mostly positive. And anything above and beyond as to how staff have been seeing the feedback.
Mr. Walton?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Laferriere. So this has been going on for a couple of years. I think that the report where this was approved was 2 years ago. So that year we did the first phase of it, which was outlined in the report, Banfield and some other streets in that area. I believe at the time there was around 700 notices went out to the owners, and quite frankly, I'm sure a lot of you got a little bit of feedback. We did have a few concerned citizens come forward. We dealt one-on-one with all of them, and I think resolved actually most of the concerns. And I believe that now that we've actually run this for a couple of winters, that they can see the advantages of the changed operations. So I believe that it was handled in a positive manner, and that we've got good results.
And a follow-up, if I can.
Certainly.
Excellent, thank you, and thank you for that, Staff Walton. My follow-up to you would be on the summer end of things. I mean, there are some help with this when it comes to sight lines and public safety, pedestrian walkability, being able to plan future walkability measures. Can you maybe speak a little bit of that? Because that's the one thing I do hear still is, why are we doing this all year when it's just for the winter? And I try to explain it's not only the winter, but I think you might be able to explain it better than I can.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Ferrier. Yeah, so when they look at, excuse me, which side the parking is going, they look at a number of things. Which side it works on best, yes. Sight lines, all of those things you mentioned are all looked at for the best thing for that neighborhood. And, you know, it can't always be perfect. There's always advantages of one side or the other. Different residents would have different ideas as to which is the best. But staff try and look at it from, you know, that perspective of, you know, what's the best for everybody, and and it has worked out quite well.
And I do hear on the positive from folks through you, Mr. Chair, that it does take a little bit off of our bylaw folks, because they can route more dependably in the summer months. They're not having to run out on the 15th and 16th to write a bunch of tickets because they get a bunch of calls, when we've seen bylaw overburdened the last 2 years as well because of COVID. So I think that's positive too. Okay, well, thank you. I look forward to supporting this.
Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Rob. The recommendation actually follows the guidelines of our Brant Safe Street Strategy, Speed Control and Road Safety Strategy. I wonder if Rob could just give us a couple of headlines of the many good things that are going on, this being one of them.
Mr. Walton.
Certainly. Thank you for that question, Councillor Bell. There's a lot been going on with Brant Safe Streets. It's been in place for, I guess, nearly 2 years now. We've done upwards of 187 speed data collections. We right now would have 70 outstanding requests for locations to do speed on. That turnaround to do those about 2 weeks. So those 70 locations are going to take us, with the equipment we have, about 47 weeks to complete. We've also been working on, it isn't just all about speed. We're also working on a portal for public viewing of some of the information that we can put to the public, and part of the figuring that out is figuring out what we can actually put up here. We've done improved intersection safety at different intersections with flashing beacons, stop signs, increased signage size. We've worked on line painting, added stop bars, more signage such as delineation of curves, and we've completed our sign inventory reflectivity assessment. We've fully used the digital signs that we've had, and right now we have a speed hump trial going on in the Cobblestone area. So those are high level things. We also in the fall will be planning on bringing a comprehensive report to council detailing some of this information.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you for that. If I could just add on to that, I actually had somebody from up on Iron Gate that I was speaking with a couple days ago, and they love the speed bumps. So that they think that's it's going over very well in the area, and they're quite thankful that they're there. So that's great news from them as well. Any other questions, Councillor Gatward?
Thank you. The speed bumps that you just mentioned on Iron Gate, Cobblestone area, are those the portable ones that they can put in and take out and move around? And they often use them in construction areas, although sometimes there's no construction, it's just to slow the traffic down.
They are. Mr. Walton, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Gather. Yes, they are temporary, and these will have to come out. They can't stay during the winter because the winter operations wouldn't allow it. We may give some consideration based on the preliminary results as to whether or not this is a location which requires permanent ones to be installed as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Mr. Walton, if I could just get clarification, it's on page 3 of the report when you talk about for the restricting parking to the following streets. When you say parking is restricted, is it to or from the east side? For example, on Acres, is it restricted from parking on the east side or restricted to parking on the east side?
For that particular street, I'm not really sure which. Sorry.
Okay, but they're all noted the same way. It doesn't say
That's
whether
right.
it's restricted from that side or to that side.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure, and I don't have Greg isn't here. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. If we could just find that out, we'll find out when
Yep.
the signs are up. But I just so
Yep.
if somebody asks, we can tell them.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Any other questions on that report? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you for that. Okay, so that's all for staff reports. Moving on to communications, I see none. Other business. Councillor Coleman, I don't see him as yet. Councillor Wheat, you can speak to it.
Yeah, Brian called me today to get my feelings on this. Council of the City of Brantford has put off making a decision on the extension of Oak Park Road. Brian and I are very disappointed that that term of council would not face the music and make a decision. By not extending that, it's going to affect the county of Brant. We felt, Brian and I felt that when we're faced with a tough decision right here, we don't put it off till the next term of council, we deal with it. We're disappointed that the city of Brantford has put off making a decision on Oak Park Road extension until the next term of council. You could have 10 new members of council, could happen here too, in the county of Brant. If we're faced with a tough decision, well, we won't deal with it. We'll put it off to the next term. Then you've got 10 new people coming in who aren't even familiar with the situation. So we're disappointed in the city that they wouldn't make a decision. And Brian, just want to put that on the table, that County of Brant, maybe other members of this council, other than Brian and I, will agree with the city's decision to put it off to a new term rather than deal with it. But Brian and I feel we have enough backbone, face the music and deal with it.
No, appreciate that. Councillor Gatward, speaking to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As it was going to be very close to Ward 5, that road, or proposed road, was not very popular with any of the residents in the Brant County area where it's proposed. It also wasn't popular with the residents in the west part of Brantford. And my understanding was that the city of Brantford canned the project. They didn't just put it off to the next term. Maybe we could get clarification on that. But when I read in the paper that it was done, I thought, good, because nobody wanted it. I don't know whose idea it was, some engineer somewhere, but it wasn't a good idea, in my opinion, to put a 4-lane expressway over a cemetery. Thank you.
Mr. Walton, speak to that. I'll get right to you, Mark. Councillor.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Gatward. I think we have to communicate with staff over there and find out the actual status of that project. We recently had a meeting with them where they're talking of some other options, but I was not of the mind that the project had been outright canceled yet. And as you know, with an EA, there's a lot of steps that go into an EA. So I'm not sure where exactly they're at with that. I can confirm that they're looking at other options, but I'm not sure that the EA is complete. We certainly can report back through a Friday file as to where that situation's at. And Councillor or Chair Pierce, I can confirm that the maps associated with that report on the parking show the side of the street where the parking is proposed.
Okay, so it is to that, it's
Yeah.
restricted to that
Yeah.
site. Then. Okay,
That's right.
thank you for that clarification.
And thank you,
sure.
Rob, for getting back to council and letting us know the actual status of that expressway.
Councillor Ferrier and then Councillor Miller.
Thank you. I'm not sure how helpful or unhelpful it is in the current climate to criticize another municipality for what they are and aren't doing, and they do it to us too. And so on this note, maybe I'd like to ask if maybe on that Friday file or a Friday file, because we have councillors in Brantford talking about truck traffic in Paris, and we have now us talking about Oak Park extensions. If we can get a status update as council about the approved, I think a term ago, joint joint transit plan. That's something that I know since I've been on council, my understanding is we have it budgeted, we have the lawyers and consultants for it budgeted, and we're waiting on the city. But it appears to me the city thinks that they're waiting on us, and maybe a Friday file update might be helpful for all involved, so we know where we're actually at with that, since we're all talking about each other's roads and transit.
Mr. Walton.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor LaFerriere. It'd probably be a good thing for staff to actually update ourselves on that too. This has dragged out over a long period of time. We certainly haven't been in control of it, but we have participated, and COVID certainly has not helped on projects like this. So I think that it's a good idea, and we should bring that information back to council.
Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate that. We kind of deviated a little bit there from the original communication, but that's fine. It is very important, and I think it's going to be benefit of all to understand exactly where we are. Councillor Miller, you had something.
Well, just to add on, I mean, my understanding was, and it always made sense to me, that the city would like to maybe look at joint transportation, some kind of, and we're working on our master transportation plan. They're working on theirs. And it always made sense to me to look at transportation on a regional route. So I would, I would look forward to that, and not quite sure how to officially kick it off. But I think we have to move forward on it. And
Agreed.
yeah, and I also reiterate what the Councillor Ferrier says. I would be a little leery maybe of criticizing any other council, because I know for ourselves, there's a lot of information we read before we make a decision. So, and I know I definitely haven't read all their information. So, and sometimes putting something off is a way of dealing with it until more information comes forward. So, but the joint transportation, I would like to see us go forward with that.
Okay, duly noted. Mr. Walton?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is a project for the joint transportation and it has been approved and there is a consultant. I just need to report on where we're at. So I can do that. This has dragged out for quite a period of time. There's no doubt about that. So brushing up a Friday file would be good for all of us.
Excellent. Okay, I don't see any additional other business. Anybody that didn't say anyway. So moving on, can I get a motion to move in camera, please? Mayor Bailey, Councillor Howes, all in favor? Okay. Okay, I think everybody has come back. We're just missing Councillor Wheat and Councillor Coleman. If they didn't click join, they'll time out and come back to us here. So we're just going to give it a minute. Heather, are you able to confirm if they're still in that other room or have they left?
There's 10 more seconds.
Okay, here they come. Councillor Wheat. Do I see? And there's Councillor Coleman. Okay, so we're all back here. Thank you for that. That takes care of the in-camera sessions. We are back in open session now. I don't see anything else on the agenda for this evening. Thank everybody for attending. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Councillor Bell. Councillor Bell. Councillor Goward seconds it. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Have a great evening, folks.
Meeting, everybody. Good meeting, Chair.
Yeah, now
Everybody leave though.
we're going to
That's
another
right.
meeting here, so just everybody just hang tight.